Welcome to BizBody, where we talk about the art and science of exercise to help you solve movement and pain problems. Majority of times when we have people come in, we ask the big question, what do you do for exercise? What is the normal person's response that comes in here?
9 times out of 10, it's like, oh, I walk, or oh, I ride a bike, or maybe I swim, right? All those things where you're just like, oh, no, that's really not exercise.
We get frustrated about it because we have a very specific definition of exercise, and when someone is active, that's amazing. Like, it's great to be active and sociable, doing things that are something maybe you're not used to doing. You're doing something a little bit off the cuff, and you're trying something new and making sure that that's stimulating for your mind and your body. However, if you're turning your brain off and you're on autopilot and you don't know what's happening to you while you're doing it, and especially if you're someone that's dealing with pain or chronic pain or problems, this can be a really big problem because you're viewing someone's viewing something as healthy that may be wearing down their tires and wearing down their body.
Yeah, and I think the hard part is it's usually when people start those things, you know, they go to the doctor, they have something going on, knee pain, back pain, you know, something like that. Doctor's like, oh, just get some more exercise. Oh, that's great, doc. You
so
know,
vague.
Thanks for the advice. What should I do? Well, just go for more walks. Right? But if you have knee pain, like, how are you supposed to go for more walks? Like, especially if it exacerbates your knee pain, right? So it's like, oh, well, if that exacerbates your knee pain, just go swim.
My doctor told me this should work.
Yeah, because that's totally different.
The idea of us having our place and the medical system having their place in order to help keep you alive, help keep you moving, save your life. I mean, there is nothing better than the life-saving ability of our medical system. When it comes to exercise and health, however, that's a little bit different story because that's not what they're schooled in. They're schooled in saving lives, which is critical for our society, and which is awesome that we have people that specialize in that. However, exercise as an industry, we haven't really started with solidifying a definition of what exercise even is. It's too vague. So people are thoroughly confused of, they're like, well, is it good or bad, number one, rather than is it good for me or is it not good for me right now? And that's why today is so important with setting our definition of exercise. And again, this is just our definition. It's not the only definition. We're offering you a different view or a different way to look at what you can leverage exercise for as a tool in your skill set of things to help you feel better and move better for a lifetime, because we firmly believe that exercise, when somebody is in a position to actually handle exercise, it could be one of the only ways to then allow your body to adapt to move for a lifetime. And that's really what we're talking about here.
Yeah, and really it's just making sure that we're speaking the same language, right? Mm-hmm. And you know, when you're talking to individuals, you're talking to other professionals, if you're not speaking the same language, we're talking, you know, English together, but we may be using the same terms with different definitions. And I think that's the big takeaway from this is, if you follow us and you continue to follow this podcast and you continue to listen to what we have to say, like, it's really important that you understand how we define these terms so that things aren't taken out of context. And I think that's the biggest thing.
We're going to lay down these foundations of terms of what we mean so that we can go back to them and you have a basic fundamental understanding of what we're trying to say, because things get lost easily in translation regardless, and there's many different points of view. Our hope is to take those points of view for this show and streamline them so you always know exactly what we're talking about to the best of our ability. And that's why we're going to start off with general definitions of what other people have referred exercise as. The Webster definition, right? So an activity requiring physical effort carried out to sustain or improve health and fitness, or a process or activity carried out for the specific purpose, especially one concerned with a specific area or skill. There's a over-the-top definition that we have, and there's an even greater over-the-top definition of which our mentors have, which are highly specific for exercise practitioners. Anyone coming into our place, usually they're people that have exercised before, or maybe even have a background of understanding their body better. And so when we're talking about our definition of exercise, specific designed challenge for the purpose of a specific adaptation that can be measured qualitatively and quantitatively. And what I mean by that is you're trying to either do something or take something away in order to be measured how you feel, qualitative, like the quality of it, or there's some sort of quantity that can be attributed to the thing you're doing. Overall, the outcome is then reviewed in a given time interval in order to meet your objective. Like, why were you even doing it in the first place? And when you're done with it, do you know what you did actually help you get there? You can't separate different pieces of the body. The body is interconnected, it's intertwined. It's like saying the neural part and the muscular part and the skeletal part, they're all separate. No, they're all a continuum of information and energy to allow your body from what it does to actually build molecular tissue. It actually builds itself out of thought and out of intention, which is a miracle that can even happen.
Right. And I think, it's really important that we get to the nuances a little bit of how we're defining these things so that as we move forward, again, the context is there, right? Mm-hmm. And I think when you look at the Webster dictionary, and Keith and I talk about this between ourselves, but also with our clients all the time, is really it says activity requiring physical effort carried out to sustain and improved health and fitness. Well, in the definition of exercise, the word activity shows up, right? And that's really where we want to start to make these, inferences and defining, terms of exercise versus activity. What our definition is, and becoming a little more specific about being able to measure things qualitatively, quantitatively, it's hard to do that with activities.
Attention. Like, if your attention's not there, how are you supposed to know that anything changed? Because people are like, tell me what's more important when you do something and somebody asks you how'd that work for you? And they're like, well, I think it worked. Or is it like, no, that was the thing that mattered most. That's a life changer. That's a game changer. I know that works. And what's crazy is that qualitatively, unless I'm in tune and have attention on if something actually made a change for me, I'm the steward of my own sensations, I'm a steward of my own perception instead of somebody else. And that's why it's like I can take ownership of what has happened in that moment to know, is that thing repeatable if I were to do that, to raise the quality of my life, of my ability. I think that's profound.
Yeah, I get it. And, that whole conversation, exercise versus activity, there's nothing wrong with activity.
Right. Right.
I think we all enjoy probably the things that we define as activities. I enjoy going for walks with my wife. I enjoy taking a bike ride with my daughter. I enjoy, going and playing pickleball, which is the new craze, right? I enjoy all those things, but those are activities. Mm-hmm. I get to turn my brain off. I get to go through the motions, do them. Do they have some semblance of, health? Potentially, right? Because
they're social. They're social too, which is awesome to have social connection. And some of them are novel. So now it's like you get the brain stimulation to do novel things. Mm-hmm. It's just like if you need to take a step and your system can't handle 1.5 times your body weight going a particular direction because you don't know that, what do people think is going to happen? Your body gives out. In an exercise scenario, I think risk stratification, like making sure that things are meeting the right amount of risks that someone's willing to take. Sport and activity, pastimes, that they don't care about that.
No, I
No,
mean,
they don't care about that at all.
yeah, there's no correlation between like sport and activity and good health, right? Like, if that was the case, like nobody would ever get hurt playing a sport
Never.
or participating in an activity. But it happens all the time. I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar, thing where people are getting hurt all the time, quote unquote, being active.
Well,
right?
athletes would also be athletes for a lifetime. They wouldn't have to retire when they're like 29.
Right.
It's like, well, can you imagine? It's like, well, I worked this assembly line for a solid 4 years. That's time for me to retire. Mm-hmm. Now I got to live another 60 years on retirement.
Right.
It says nobody.
Well, I mean, and how many times have you heard, like, we deal with youth athletes a lot here as well. And, like parents will come in and say, well, my son has, this knee thing going on or this back thing going on. It's like, oh, okay, what type of things are they doing? They're currently in basketball. They do baseball, like in the winter as well. They're playing this, like they're in multiple leagues. They play soccer. It's like, whoa, you're doing all these activities / sports, right? And you believe that it's good for them because they're not sitting in front of the TV playing Xbox or PlayStation, and that it should be healthy and they should be getting in good shape. But it's like, if that was so good for them, why are they in here with these itises, which are basically just overuse injuries, right?
Or when we look at anybody coming in, we have an injury history. And sometimes these 16-year-olds or 12-year-olds, they already have a laundry list. They've had multiple concussions, or whiplashes, and how that affects a nervous system long term is well known, all the way down to the gut-brain axis, towards how they're even digesting food. And all of a sudden, when we're mapping this all out, it's like, wow, there's some really big control quality issues. And if they're not even tuning into any of these control issues, who is?
Right. We're just trying to really define like what we're looking at as we move through the process of this podcast. Like what do we look at exercise, right? Yeah. Like we're looking at exercise as being very specific to the individual human that allows them to be able to do all the activities and sports they want to do.
Yeah.
Outside of pain and discomfort and dysfunction, right?
Right.
And this whole idea of being able to do what you want to do, but not having limitations in order to do them, right? And, if sport was healthy for you as an individual, we would never play or participate when we have any sort of discomfort or pain.
Right.
But we know that that's not true. Like,
play through it.
We were both athletes. Like, I can tell you, there was multiple times I played through pain, like irregardless of, what my body said. It was like, hey, I'm ready to go. Like, I'm not going to sit out. Right. And if that was,
you wanted to play through a bone chunk in your arm, right? Like you were like, oh, I'm going to try to like warm it up a little better, crack. And just like, oh man, I can't throw the ball anymore, but I'd still throw if I could.
Yeah. I mean, like, the last year that I played in college when I got hurt, I had a bone chip that chipped off my condyle the size of a dime that would lodge in the epicondyle of my elbow. And like, I would go out and I would throw on a Saturday, and it would take 5-6 days for me to regain range of motion to throw again the next Saturday.
But you do it.
Because it's like, this is what you love to do. This is like my last year. Like, I want to give it everything I got.
Yeah.
Now, is there long-term damage to that? Like, well, it's probably not exactly normal anymore.
Just like think about, I don't think people realize, and we're gonna have a whole separate show on this, like bone material and cartilage material and ligament material. These materials all have different healing properties and healing times, and some heal well and others just don't really heal at all. But what's even more interesting is that the nervous system's always aware of the feedback loops that these tissues provide to help you move in space. So as that presents is the exercise. And that's why when people come in here, like, what do you guys really do here? And like, the majority of it is taking Well, it is a better understanding of what someone can control and perceive and what they're having trouble controlling and perceiving based upon previous injuries, surgeries, medications, any types of injuries that they've had to their body, because it can have a profound effect on what piece is injured compared to another. Like, what if you injured your ear or your eye versus your elbow? Like, could have a completely different impact on your system's learning capacity, because it's really seems to be about how your body, how your human system takes in information to react to the environment so it can move. That's really what life tends to be about, being able to move about your environment and react to it. So you got to be able to take in stimuli, react to it, and then be able to move about. If you can't do it, then people are in real trouble. Thank you for tuning in to this week of Defining Exercise. Next week, we talk about interventions and what you can do about it.